Okay, let's talk Huyan Zhou. So guys, if you have not checked out our latest summer welfare, she is a thick one, and she is really nice in that regard. Now, Huyan Zhou is coming to us at a, definitely like weird point in the game here, where this is the 10th year of FGO. There are a ton of options that you have, but honestly, we don't have a whole lot of like welfare berserkers, and those that we do have are either very low star or, probably like single target or maybe even a little underwhelming. Huyan is a quick looping AoE berserker, and that is intriguing because naturally over the years we've had some really problematic quick looping berserkers, especially in the realm of Lancelot Berserker being kind of the first example where he comes out, kind of breaks the state of the game basically by the time Scotty enters, as he becomes the de facto like go-to damage dealer. And we have like Xiang Yu that comes out later, where it felt like the devs were just terrified of a 5-star version of Lancelot, and so they made him just completely incapable of looping at the time, and they center him more around like crit damage. And he's gotten a lot better thankfully over the years, but still not quite at the level of someone like Lancelot. And then eventually we get Sin no Rikyu, who can be a Black Grail looper and somebody that just has pretty decent refund and charge. Now, Huyan, just looking at her base stats, has pretty rudimentary stuff, but the reality here is 10k attack for a berserker is solid, especially considering this is a 4-star. 4-star units usually don't get to 10k, so every time they do, this is a good thing to see. She is man attribute. She has very low star absorption as expected and star generation, nothing too crazy there. Her NP charge rate is actually 0.51. This is also not terrible. Her NP charge defense rate is 5%, and her death rate is abnormally high at 58%, so don't take her into a scenario where you can get death proc. Her alignment is Chaotic Summer. She is female gendered. She has animal characteristics servant, demonic, hominide, servant, humanoid, loved one, Mount Liang, servant, aka the normal servant, Seven Night Servant, Summer Mode Servant, Weak to Enemy Elish, and Wild Beast. So she has quite a bit of traits there for her to go off of. She is that sort of standard post-Summer Scotty era double quick, double buster type of deck. And the hit counts on them are actually pretty solid. Everything is above average, with the only exception being the extra attack being just average. The weird part here is going to be the singular arts card, but I digress. Again, with a lot of these units, you usually want double quick and double buster because that synergizes extremely well with the supports that you'll probably be using. Now, moving on to her skills, she has Heavenly 4-star Summer A that allows her to ignore defense. This is a little bit of a unique niche for her. It will also increase her own attack for 3 turns by 30% and increase her own critical star absorption for 1 turn by 5,000%. That is ideal because usually with a berserker, again, the star absorption rate is naturally low for that class. It's very difficult to soak stars on them. So having a 5,000% modifier, that is enough. She will be able to soak stars with that. Her second skill here is basically self-esteem needs at Summer B, and this increases her own quick performance for 3 turns by 20%. Not a terribly strong steroid, but it does grant a self-on-buff activating buff for 3 turns that increases her own quick performance by 10% for 3 turns whenever she receives healing or max HP up. However, this, like Indra's healing ability, is exempt from the HP regeneration buff that like Merlin can provide. It's exempt from sources from craft essences and command codes. So basically only from another servant and pretty much only from a mystic code. And it will also grant her evasion for 2 attacks, 3 turns. So she does have a little bit of hard survivability to help counter that only 10k HP. So all in all, definitely nice, but this is going to be one of those deals where you maybe want to use the Neo plug suit that actually has a heal on it instead of the stun, so that you can get a little bit more quick up for her to help her out. Her third skill here is going to basically charge her own NP gauge. This is a 30% charge. It increases her own critical damage for 3 turns by 30%, and for that turn specifically by an additional 100%. So you're gonna have to play this one a little bit like smartly and pay attention to when you're having to use your charge skills and how much refund you're getting. But if you do that, you can create sort of a super crit turn where Huyan could just crit something down and not even have to NP. Doubly so with all the stacking crit buffs that the Scotties might be providing her. She will also gain 20 critical stars on command on this. I'm not the hugest fan of star bombs on a quick unit, but they can be useful if you're not running conventional supports, or if you just maybe need this like right out of the gate when you maybe don't have somebody that has a star bomb as a support. So interestingly enough, she's got a pretty rudimentary kit, and it is what it is. Looking at her passive skills, she has, ironically enough, Madness Enhancement EX. She's one of the few Berserkers that actually has it, and continues a growing trend of usually Berserkers that actually get Madness Enhancement EX are not actually Buster-based Berserkers. So it is an interesting one in that regard. She has Phantasmal Beast Possession C that increases the star absorption of her Buster cards by an additional 10%. And that's basically it for her passive skills. Her pen skills here, the big one's going to be mana loading. She's got that 30% charge, so starting out with mana loading has a lot of synergy. Her third one, with her being a Berserker, is just going to be pretty much completely useless most of the time. Though, depending on her uses, we may be able to come up with things like uses for skill reloading, her special attack finesse improvement for the critical damage, and the extra attack finesse improvement for the extra attack performance. With regards to her Noble Phantasm, Huyan has an 8-hit AoE Noble Phantasm. It's going to deal damage to all enemies, has a 30% chance to stun them, and then reduces their critical attack chance by 20% for 3 turns. From there, the overcharge effect is that it will deal super effective damage to lawful alignment enemies. There are definitely a ton of lawful alignment enemies in the game, so this is definitely a solid niche for her. I think my biggest issue with this NP is that it's primarily the low stun rate, just being completely unreliable. 30% stun is not something you can play around. It's just going to happen. And if it does, it might be something that you don't anticipate to such a degree that when it actually does happen, it might actually screw you up in some way. So it is what it is. But I vastly would have preferred to see that be at least something like the 60 to 70% range, just for at least like a decent odd of it happening. Now, what does that mean for Huyan Zhou's performance? Well, on screen, you guys are going to see this is basically Huyan Zhou's performance against casters. Her actual NP gain rate with double Summer Scotty. And forgive me, these graphs here this time around are going to be a little bit different. Avalon, who normally makes them for me, is sick today, so I had another friend help me out, and we came up with this, and it is pretty good and should serve our purposes. So basically what you guys can see is that against casters, which have the most refund as an enemy type, against them, you can manage to hit basically 50% against 3 targets, or really 48% even, if you can get 5 hits of overkill. Now, all 5 hits don't have to be to 1 unit. It's just 5 hits in general across those 3 enemies. So it's not impossible to do, but you guys can see this will make things difficult. Huyan Zhou's refund is not stellar. And a lot of it's going to come down to, can you manage to maybe finagle the support setup to get additional quick ups on her from that extra healing stack? Here is Huyan Zhou's refund now against purely neutral enemies. You can see at this point, she cannot get the actual requisite 50% charge that she would need to be able to like Black Grail loop. So there's going to be scenarios where, yes, you actually can Black Grail loop with Huyan Zhou, but it's going to be highly node and enemy dependent. And it's something that will probably happen more frequently here in the actual summer event than outside of it, because right now she has 100% damage bonus. She is going to be getting a lot of extra overkill due to that, so a refund will actually look a little bit better during the event than it maybe would look outside of it. But this is definitely something to denote. And yes, there are numerous other support options you guys can use to try to get Huyan Zhou's refund to a better place, including, as someone just mentioned, Nero Bride can definitely be an option for you. A lot of the times, quick-based refunders, so not units that brute force their charge, but actual refunders that rely on their hit counts, they scale really well with units that provide NP gain. Because they are so predominantly refund focused, that really helps them, as opposed to a unit that maybe has low hit counts at a low NP gain rate. Those are usually the better ones to brute force with charge. So now on screen, you guys can see basically what it would look like with, and we are using cranking here. Please understand, this is just because arguably cranking's like one of the best 50% starting charge Cs. There are other quick centric Cs that you could provide, but they wouldn't necessarily provide more damage output for her. So starting her out with a 50% CE, we can basically do double Summer Scotty and Oberon. This is going to allow for at least decent output here, particularly in the lawful niche. Keep in mind, this is not exactly going to be including things like the summer bonus and stuff like that. So you can see at NP5, though, is where the numbers should actually be for her. She is a welfare. You're going to be guaranteed to get all 5 copies, assuming you complete the event. Though, from everything I hear, this is a very long event this time around. Apparently, we have 25 chapters of story, but we'll see. Still the standard 3-week duration. So, basically, NP5 numbers are where you guys should be looking here. They are much more palatable. They are a lot better here than comparing it to something like NP1. But is this going to be better than maybe some of her other competition? Is this going to be enough to see regularly use? The thing to keep in mind is with a welfare, they're free. So you don't really care. As long as you can utilize the unit effectively or you like the unit, a free unit is a gift and you shouldn't look it in the mouth. Now, down here, we can actually see Huyan's one-shot damage. Basically, how much she can pump for one wave at NP5, also against the lawful niche, but this is utilizing Black Grail. We didn't really want to run the Black Grail numbers for her comparatively because, again, there's going to be times where, due to the node structure, it's not going to work because she's such a primarily refund-based unit. But you can see in the last one here, this is just her raw numbers with basically neutral, no other supports, nobody else helping her out. This is kind of where she ends up. So at MP5, she can end up at about 35k. And against lawful, you can see very, very good scaling in that regard. So that is why when we actually look at the one-shot numbers and we look at the 3-turn composition here, start to see a lot more firepower coming out of that lawful niche. Super effective. Is one hell of a drug. It literally just amplifies damage so strongly. Next up here, we have Sinnoh basically being compared with a Black Grail, and you can see this is kind of one of the problems that Sinnoh is going to have. Her performance is not terrible, but she's also a little bit conscious of refund and node structure. She can Black Grail loop against 3 enemy waves, but when you start getting to like 2 and singular enemy waves, it starts getting a lot more precarious for her. She does at least have charge in her kit, but this is going to be naturally a little bit of an issue for her. So basically at that point, we start to see that Huyan actually compares quite favorably against Sin, unless you're having additional NP levels of Sin. And who knows, it may be time for Sinnoh to finally get a buff and maybe kind of start matching some of the other high octane berserkers at this point. But let me know what you guys think about Huyan Zhou. Do you like her design? Would you maybe have preferred her to be at least like gameplay wise a little bit different? Maybe a little bit more charge, less refund? Be curious to hear you guys' thoughts, and I will see you guys for the next one. Thank you guys for watching. And then I saw this, and I was like, and then I just went back to looking at this. I never even noticed the who's damn. Yeah.